Three topics, 60 minutes covering the biggest news in the ECHL. This is the Three Periods Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Matthew Will and Matthew Harding.
And it's a great day because we're finally back with another edition of the Three Periods Pod. And not like anyone's counting or anything, but we're only 49 days away from ECHL regular season hockey. I can't wait. I'm joined by Matthew Harding. How you feeling today?
Hey, doing all right, buddy. How are you?
Doing all right. And I actually want to lead off with something we hadn't originally planned on spending too much time on. It just came out in a tweet from Elliot Friedman that the NHL has announced their COVID protocols.
Okay.
And individual teams will be allowed to suspend players that are not vaccinated for 1 or 2 days if they go on a road trip in order to avoid having to have that player quarantined going in or out of a state or country, including Canada. Is this something we maybe see leak down? Because we know that the AHL and the ECHL are planning on trying to do some of the things that the NHL are doing. Kind of a loaded question to start things off.
First of all, that's a Friedman bomb. I did not catch that tweet from Elliot, but we'll have Commissioner Ryan Crelin here on the show coming up in just a few minutes. I think it's entirely possible that you see teams make that move to suspend players, especially those teams that have to go to and from Canada up in the North Division. It's entirely possible that you see those players not make the trip with the team over the border, especially if they're not vaccinated. I understand the NHL did previously announce that they would have a mandate for vaccines for all of their players. So I think that this is another layer to it, but definitely something interesting for sure that we can bring up with Commissioner Kreilin in just a few minutes.
Yeah, he quoted the official statement saying that there were exceptions, unvaccinated status based on medical reasons, a conflict with religious belief or establishments, or the balance of probabilities. That he did also say that if you're a fully vaccinated player and you get COVID, that's going to count as a hockey-related injury, so you do not have to give up pay. It sounds like in the couple times I just skimmed the article that if you're unvaccinated and get COVID, you take suspension without pay those days. So kind of a big turning point that we kind of expected was going to eventually fall, and this is the way that the NHL have decided to do it. We'll see if Gary Bettman chose the right way.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this happens. And if it moves down leagues, I fully expect that it will in some version. There needs to be hockey played, and we need to get off of this political hot potato of vaccination versus no vaccine, and just get on with everyday life. Like, we understand that the virus is going to be there. We understand that this is going to be a way of life now. And if you contract it and you have the vaccine, great. Or, Godspeed, get back soon, whatever. But we need to move forward, and sports is starting to figure that out. And pretty soon, I think the rest of the culture in North America will figure that out as well. But it's definitely a sizable extra layer to that vaccination mandate from the NHL.
And it does bring up the first point that you and I were going to talk about. And Syracuse was the latest team in the AHL to announce that all employees, game night staff, and fans 12 and up will be required to be vaccinated and show proof upon entry to the arena. I think they were the third maybe AHL team to do something like that. It was more of an arena thing, but the team in the arena sounds like they're working together to do that. Is that something we see a couple of ECHL arenas maybe adapt?
Yes. I think especially up in the northeastern part of the country, your Adirondacks, Reading, teams like that. I think we're going to find out. The Board of Governors meets next week here in the ECHL, and I think that is really going to lay out a roadmap for how teams will proceed with their fan policies. Remember now that those are done generally at the arena level. So if your arena is owned, like Interest Bank Arena in Wichita is owned by AEG, which used to be SMG, if your arena mandates vaccines, then there's really not a whole lot the team can do. So, kudos to those teams in the ECHL or in the American Hockey League moving forward with mandating vaccines for their staffs. Honestly, I don't know why they haven't yet across most of hockey, especially considering where we're at with this and the fact that most of these people work in the wintertime and they're around players and everything like that. It just makes sense. But I think we'll see a whole lot more of that, especially as we get closer to the season.
And then we get into what could probably take up most of this first period. We are going to be joined by Commissioner Ryan Crelin in just a few minutes. But the coaching carousel has been in full effect and moving at 100 mile an hour. Quite possibly the move that I'm going to say shocked, but I don't think many of us are shocked that it was him who got a call up. Matt Thomas from Cincinnati gets his call up to the AHL. He's going to be an assistant coach for the Bruins. He gets to join Ryan Mognall, who was named the AHL Bruins coach on August 13th. Obviously, Matt Thomas, a guy who has coached in the ECHL to the highest level he could. I mean, he has taken that team to crazy places. It was only a matter of time, really.
Yeah. And Matt Thomas is one of the brightest minds in the ECHL. We had him on our trade deadline special. I think it was the one you and I co-hosted together a couple of years ago where, we were just talking to teams across the league, and he always had something to say to the coaches about the players that they had and everything like that. So one of the brightest minds in the league, in a league full of bright minds, really. The league is not at a loss for very talented coaches at this level, and Matt Thomas is one of the best of them. Congratulations to him. He gets to move up to the American Hockey League, but even bigger is the fact that Jason Payne now becomes the only African-American coach in minor league hockey, and he gets it in the ECHL, having been an assistant coach with Cincinnati for the 1920 season before his promotion. So congratulations to Jason, who has been a lot of places. He's the Johnny Cash of minor league hockey. He's been everywhere, man. So, congratulations to Jason. They have a good nucleus in Cincinnati. Made a pretty impactful signing on Wednesday. And that team, I have no doubt in my mind, will be very good this season, led by Jason Payne.
I said it on the first podcast. I'll say it tonight, and I'm sure I'll probably say it on every single one following this. The Central Division is going to be just hack and slash all the way through the year. And you've got to think that Jason Payne has a lot of trust from his fans and from his organization to be the guy who leads this team through that Central Division. Yes.
Yeah, that is a huge vote of confidence for him from the Cincinnati ownership group to lead this club. There, I'm sure that there were any number of names out there that they could have gotten, but they didn't, and they settled on him. And congratulations to Jason for that promotion up to a head coach of the Cincinnati Cyclones.
The Newfoundland Growlers, fresh off of a official arena deal. They've got a place to play up in St. John. They've named Eric Wellwood as their third head coach. That was on August 20th. This is an exciting signing for them, I think. Every coach that's gone through there has found success so far, and they've got a place to play. All of the question marks that they had going into the season are finally starting to get answered, and they're starting to put a team together in what looks like could be an entertaining North Division.
And Toronto made a couple of signings of players who will likely end up in Newfoundland earlier today. Zach O'Brien, who we know here in Wichita, and Marcus Power as well. And both of those guys were instrumental in Newfoundland raising the Kelly Cup. About 3 years ago now? So both of those players will be back in Newfoundland for next year. And that combined with the roster signings that they had earlier today, that's going to be a pretty stout team. They're going to get a whole lot of help from Toronto, and that's going to be a really good group there in Newfoundland.
And it sets up for what could probably be an exciting division up there. It already looks like Reading is starting to put together another solid team. They always seem to to do good work there, especially with their affiliation with Lehigh Valley. That seems to help them quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
We talked in the last podcast about the exodus of a Jacksonville coach. Well, we've got a new one. Nick Lucko takes over. On August 10th, he was announced he does replace Jason Christie, like we had mentioned, who was promoted as an assistant coach to NHL Buffalo. What are your instant thoughts on Nick Lucko?
He's going to be a really good coach, I think, for the Jacksonville Icemen. Obviously, get a late start, and now you have a chance to bring back those players that Coach Christie had from the year before, and bring in some of your new talent and things like that. So this is going to be a pretty big year for them. Hosting the All-Star game probably doesn't help. Probably doesn't hurt, rather, with recruiting down there. So there's still a little bit of time left. A lot of players sitting out there trying to decide what they're going to do with American Hockey League deals, or if they're going to go there or not. So I would expect Jacksonville to be, again, kind of in that 3 to 5 team window there in the South Division. Going to be a tough nut to crack there with South Carolina, Greenville, and Florida in that top-heavy South Division. So, it'll be a pretty good – if that's the floor for Nick Lucko in his first year behind the bench in Jacksonville, he's got a whole lot of ceiling above him.
Not only are those hard shoes to fill, but that is a difficult division to just enter into. Because, I mean, obviously, it's way too early to give your way too early. It's way too early to give your way too early postseason picks.
Yeah,
but it looks like that division could be fighting for fourth place again, just like they were this year. So he's got a very high potential and a lot of working room. I think his leash is going to be rather long in year one. So I think he's got a lot of creative openness this year to try some new things out and see what works.
And don't forget that Jacksonville is now working with the New York Rangers as well. So they're going to get players from Hartford as well. So it'll be interesting to see how all of that meshes together there on the first coast of Florida.
Yeah. Another ECHL guy getting named to be an assistant coach, Steve Burgin, gets the call up to the Hershey Bears. That was on August 5th. He was the ECHL Coach of the Year back in 1920 with South Carolina. The guy's proven excellence, and it's just another example of another very talented coach making the move up and proving that this might not just be a developmental league for players, but also a developmental league for coaches.
You brought up a really good point earlier when we talked earlier this afternoon leading up to the podcast about if this league was a developmental league for coaches, not just players. And I think we can ask Commissioner Kreilin that coming up here in just a few minutes as well. I would agree with that question, and I would agree with that sentiment that it is a developmental league for both. Congratulations to Steve Burgin. He came to Wichita. He was in the All-Star game in 2020, and he led the South Carolina Stingrays. They had a really good offense, a really good defense that year. Just a really solid coach there for him, and he gets back into that Washington affiliation tree as well that he was familiar with in South Carolina. So good to see him up in the American Hockey League with the Hershey Bears.
Kansas City named 2 assistant coaches, well, an assistant coach and a goalie coach. Riley Weslowski and Josh Robinson, both named to the Kansas City coaching staff. You inserted the nice fact that both guys played for Tato Had back in Florida. This is a really solid Kansas City coaching staff who, I mean, I praised Tato Had last year that I thought he was doing good things with a tough team to work with last year. So this is a coaching staff that could lead a team deep into this Mountain Division.
Yes. And equally as big for Kansas City that you get Josh Robinson, it is as equally big a loss for Wichita that you lose Riley Weslowski behind your bench. Just the clout that he has on the bench, in the room, wherever you need him. He's been kind of the stopgap guy for Wichita over the last few years. You and I have had a chance to talk with him and get to know him here during his time in Wichita. Just a real salt of the earth human being, one of the best guys in the sport. And it's good for him to get a shot up in Kansas City. Kind of wish Selfishly, it might have been here in Wichita that we'd actually gotten a chance to work with him a little bit longer, but or at least I had a chance to interact with him a little bit more. But he's only 180 miles up the road, so not a big deal. But that said, that coaching staff is coming together very well for Tato had. They're signing some solid players as well. That Kansas City Mavericks team is going to be a team to watch in the Mountain Division here this coming season.
You're definitely going to have to put Independence, Missouri on your map this year.
Yes.
They're going to be a place that you might want to go check out a game this year because they were already working on some good things last year. This is exciting.
And I want to say this. John Gerskis and Riley Weslowski last year had the Thunder with the lowest goals against average in a 13-team league. The caliber of play this last year to this coming season is in all likelihood going to drop. So Kansas City, and it's not, I don't think it's a stretch here to say that Kansas City will have a very solid defense this year with Riley Weslowski anchoring the D back there, coaching the defense instead of Cole Schultz.
It will be exciting to see what they can do. Like I said, 49 days away, and we'll get to start figuring some of that stuff out. So,
absolutely.
Right before we get the commissioner on, we want to walk you through what's happened lately in the affiliation updates. We had a couple announced here in the last couple of weeks. The first one being that Norfolk is joining the Chicago Wolves as affiliates of the Carolina Hurricanes. I think this is a really good opportunity for Norfolk, a team who unfortunately has found themselves near the bottom of the ECHL in the past couple of years. This is an affiliation that I think can help change that.
They've been starving for good players there in Norfolk for the last few years, and you're right. This is an absolute godsend for them. They get to work with the Chicago Wolves, and they get to work with the Carolina Hurricanes as well. That Wolves team is stacked each year, and they always do a good job of sending players to Norfolk or to an ECHL affiliate wherever it is. So that's a huge pull for the Norfolk Admirals. Congratulations to them.
This was one that kind of took me by surprise that Atlanta is joining Belleville and Ottawa Senators through that affiliation, one that we know in Wichita a little bit after our little spell with them. What were your initial thoughts about this one?
To not expect a whole lot out of it. Ottawa sent down players to Wichita in the 1 year that they were here, and then slowly but surely they all left, and then they took the roster players for the Thunder as well. So they kind of left the Thunder with nothing. We'll have to see how this shakes out for Atlanta, but you have to think that Jeff Pyle, coach of the Atlanta Gladiators, kind of has an understanding with Belleville and Ottawa both that, okay, the players you send down are going to be the players that you want down here all year, and that they wouldn't have taken that affiliation unless they had that kind of understanding, barring injury. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens. Again, just kind of having watched that happen in Wichita a few years ago with that affiliation. If I'm a Gladiators fan, don't expect a lot out of it.
And again, that's an Atlanta team who has to fight through
that's a tough
tremendous division.
There's
now that I look at it, we've said that about every division, but
right. But there's not a cakewalk division in this league,
and there's not a bad team,
no, especially
in that division. So no. That's a huge hill for Atlanta to climb. Maybe this affiliation can start the hike up the mountain, but the Gladiator fans have got to realize it might be a little bit of a longer haul than a shorter sprint, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The one other affiliation update still worth noticing, Allen is still without an affiliate. They lost their one with Minnesota and Iowa to the Coralville team. Interesting to see that they're still without one. Steve Martinson's not going to go along without one. It'll be interesting to see where he gets his connections.
The clock is ticking for the Allen Americans. And if you've heard, and some of the scuttlebutt we've heard is that it is a bit of a tough slog to get an affiliate for Allen. And there have been some rumors as to who they may be pairing up with. We won't go into those, but it is tough sledding these days for Steve Martinson to find an affiliate. Don't cry for Allen too much, though. They're going to be a good team. They always are. Steve Martinson's a hell of a recruiter, but definitely not having an affiliate hurts him more than it helps him.
And we don't have the time to go into all of it, but if you have been keeping up to date with the entrance and exodus of players around the ECHL. Allen's exodus to Europe has now hit double digits this week.
Yeah, a full baker's dozen.
Yeah, players are leaving left and right. We know this is going to happen. We expected players from last year to head off to Europe. Wichita had to feel it as well, so we're used to it. This is only the beginning. It's going to keep happening all year long, I think.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if any of those players come back home, if there's another surge of COVID or anything like that over the next few weeks and months. Let's see if they come back home to the ECHL.
I'm excited to see what this ECHL has in store. We knew last year was going to be a very unique year, having half the teams and 5 times the amount of players. So we'll keep you updated with how things go here in the next couple weeks. And like I mentioned twice other, and I'll keep mentioning, 49 days away from finally getting to see some ECHL. I got to keep reminding myself. It just keeps me.
You got to stop that, man. I got a whole list of stuff to do before we get there.
Well, it'll be here before we know it.
Right.
But what is here before we know it is we are joined by ECHL Commissioner Ryan Crelin on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
Yeah, no, happy to join you guys here.
So the league meetings concluded a couple weeks ago, and you gave your yearly State of the ECHL address. I wanted to ask if you could give us a couple minute shorter version of your State of the ECHL right now and what you've seen.
Yeah, I think it started kind of dialing back 2 years ago and how we got to this point. And obviously last March was very difficult, and we had to work through a lot of different pieces through the summer of 2020. Again, difficult conversations, trying to assess what the facts were, and facts were at a premium. Different jurisdictions, 2 different countries, lots of protocols. But in summation of it all was the fact that we did it. And we were able to play a full season. Again, not every team able to play, but to pull off a 72-game season plus a playoff, go through all the challenges, and to wrap up in Fort Wayne with 10,500 fans, a pretty big accomplishment for us. Certainly talked about some of the other highlights and things that we've been able to accomplish over the past 16 months, 2 years, our transition to Flow Sports, working with the NHL on Hockey Fights Cancer and Hockey is for Everyone. In fact, we had a large NHL presence at our meetings out in Vegas there. And then just summing up that, we're not out of the woods yet, unfortunately. I don't think anybody wants to be having these conversations regarding COVID. But if we did it last year, we can do it this year. And we're, anxious to get back with a full roster of teams for 21-22.
I'll ask the opening salvo of COVID-related questions here, Mr. Commissioner. And the big news this evening is that Elliot Friedman of the NHL is reporting that players will be suspended if they do not take the COVID vaccine. And there are some other underlying issues. If you contract COVID, you're going on the injured list. You're not, so you're still getting paid. It's not that you're not getting paid or anything like that. Where do you stand, and where does the league stand on implementing a COVID mandate a vaccine mandate for its players this year? And where are the conversations with the PHPA and the NHLPA writ large?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that the NHL and NHLPA have come to an agreement. I don't know if they've published their documents yet, but I believe they've come to an agreement and finalized that. We've been working through in similar vein with the PHPA. Fortunately, we have a little bit more time. I don't know if we'll get to a vaccination mandate, but certainly from our perspective, we're believers in the vaccine, and you'll see a lot of vaccinated players and the folks surrounding from the front office on down. And, we'll have protocols for vaccinated folks and for unvaccinated folks. And the protocols, kind of create a bubble for unvaccinated folks as we had last year. And, that will be our general approach.
for media, we were not able to be downstairs or be anywhere near the players last year. Is that a situation where media is still going to be kind of kept at a very long arm's length away from the players, or will there be some interaction with the media and the players and coaches this year?
Yeah, there'll be more opportunity for access. Certainly, vaccinations come into that, ensuring media is vaccinated, access to vaccinated players, but still taking advantage of technology and distance as well. Masks when it's appropriate. So it won't be full access, but there will be more access. And fortunately, technology lets us do most of the things anyway.
Currently, players in the United States or those in the United States cannot travel to Canada. Those coming from Canada to the United States are allowed, but Canada has shut the United States border down. If that extends longer past the middle part of this month, have you guys begun looking into contingency plans for Newfoundland and Trois-Rivières? And if so, what do those plans look like?
Yeah, so I mean, we've had contingency discussions from moving a team into the U.S. to having to redo the schedule to all of that. Fortunately, we're very optimistic and have the requirements regarding vaccinated players getting into Canada. There's still some additional things that need to be done regarding testing, regarding registration through an app. But we're very optimistic that even though it won't be full normalcy, we'll be able to have those teams participate.
We concluded the summer meetings a couple weeks ago, and one of the highlights that came out of it was the Inclusive Spirit Award that will begin being awarded this year, going to a team who is making the sport more diverse and welcoming new people into the sport. Can you just kind of give us some more information about that and what went into creating that award?
Yeah, so again, working with the NHL and their Hockey is for Everyone movement, we've created a committee along the same lines. We have a lot of teams that are doing a lot of great things to welcome new folks to the sport. And, it could be race, religion, gender, so on and so forth. But it's not just limited to that. It could be heritage, it could be disabilities. And we want to recognize teams that are doing a good job. And, not just one thing. I think one thing I've learned from the NHL is inclusivity is it's a 12-month 365 mentality. And so for teams that are doing a great job in that area, we want to recognize them. And so we launched that award in conjunction with my opening speech and in preparation for the 21-22 season.
With the summer meetings concluding, what else were big talking points that maybe some of the standard ECHL fans might have missed when going through some of the notes from there?
You're saying over the past 16 months, I guess, in terms of or what we're looking ahead for 21-22. Is that what you're
Yeah, some of the things that some of the fans might not have caught that you guys have started implementing.
Well, I assume fans would recognize this, but I think the biggest thing from an aggregate view is the fact that through the pandemic, we added 2 expansion teams. I'm sure you guys have touched on that, but coming out of the pandemic, the ability to add 2 state-of-the-art venues, great markets to our league in Trois-Rivières and Iowa. And oh, by the way, a 3rd in Savannah once that building is complete. So to me, that's the biggest thing from a league perspective is the growth of our league. I think the other thing, if fans weren't able to attend a game, either because their jurisdiction didn't permit it or your team wasn't able to play, again, the fact that we had a full season last year, we're able to work through it, certainly had our hiccups, but in several of our markets, able to get great attendance and allow fans to come out and join enjoy ECHL hockey. So if you missed it last year or weren't able to catch a game on Flow Sports, now you've got the opportunity to come out and see it live. And I think that was part of what I was trying to convey at the meetings to our group. There's a lot of pent up desire to get out of the house, get back to socializing. Again, we're not fully out of the woods here. We still need to keep our heads on our shoulders. But we did it last year, and we can certainly do it this year to give people an opportunity to come out and enjoy live sport and live hockey.
When you talk about that, you guys had your hiccups. We had teams who were shut down for a couple of weeks, games moved, things like that. Is that what you're talking about, or is it something a little bit different than that?
Yeah, no, well, quite honestly, I think it's the aggregate. We certainly had, instances where the virus shut us down. We also had instances where ice problems shut us down. And I think the pinnacle was a Texas snowstorm that shut us down. So I couldn't seem to dodge any bullet, but we worked through it.
Is that when you look back at that season, the 2020-21 season, when you are sitting in your rocking chair on the porch and having a glass of scotch, what are you going to look back and what is the one word that you'll take from that year?
First. And what I mean by that is every day it was a new first. Something that you just couldn't anticipate or didn't see coming. And, it's not something that, we're proud of that we got through it. There just were a lot of things that were unexpected or just seemed to pile on. But I think our resiliency, deserves a round of applause.
And what does that say for your league? Obviously, it's not a one-man league. It takes everybody pitching in to be able to do that. What does it say about the league to not only be one of the very first sport leagues last year to get back into things, but to do it the way you did?
Yeah, no, I'm very proud of our cohesive efforts. Again, different mentalities, but we work together to get on the same page and pull on the same side of the rope for a good cause, to get us back to hockey so that our players could play, so that our fans can enjoy it. And again, it's not easy, but when you put in the time and effort, you can pull it off. And, I think the hustle showed, and we're very proud of that accomplishment.
We're joined by ECHL Commissioner Ryan Crelin here on the Three Periods podcast. In light of that season, we've seen now a lot of ECHL players move over to Europe to go back over across the pond and play for the season, which is now starting to get underway over there. How does the league, and you and I have talked about this before, how does the league compete with Europe to keep your higher end players in the States and playing in your league?
Yeah, you and I have talked about it before. We pride ourselves on being that AA developmental league to the NHL and AHL, and an opportunity for players to advance their career in North America, certainly be affiliated with AHL and NHL teams. And there are going to be opportunities where for certain players that make more sense in Europe. We certainly get that. I think last year, though, I heard you talking about, double digits for Allen. I think the situation gets a little bit exacerbated this year because there are players that played in our league last year that, should there have been no COVID, which restricted travel, maybe they would have never played in our league in the first place. So we talk about a high number of lost players to Europe. But again, maybe we wouldn't have had them should it have not been for the virus last year.
You actually segued into a question that I had for later, and that was the ECHL prides itself on being a true developmental league for players. But after the big signing of Matt Thomas going up to the AHL and earning an assistant coaching job up there, would you say that the ECHL is now also becoming a developmental league for coaches?
Yeah, we've said that for a while now, but as I look over the past really 4 or 5 months, Yeah, I can't remember a summer or an off season that's had that much activity for former ECHL coaches moving up to the AHL or NHL. I think there was a period of 4 or 5 days where there were 3 or 4 guys that got the call, and it's great for our league. We love seeing that, and I hope it continues to grow. And at this pace, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I completely agree, and we talked about this in the first period of the show as well. There's not a dearth of there's no shortage of talented coaches in this league. Every team has one. That obviously has to go to the NHL partnership and the AHL partnership that your teams have developed with their partners up above to bring in quality coaches who are smart and know the game.
Yeah, I think we've grown the relationship and the trust with the AHL, NHL affiliations. Our coaches are getting more recognition. And to your point, we're recruiting better coaches in the first place because of the brand of hockey and what the ECHL stands for. So when you put all of those factors together, you're seeing the results.
Last year was the first time I really noticed NHL fans recognizing the players they had in their affiliation down in the ECHL and have really recognized them as the AA league. I don't know if pride's the right word to use, but how exciting is it for you guys to see that you're now being recognized all over the country and up in Canada as well as really being this developmental league where these NHL fans are watching some of their favorite players go through the ranks?
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. I think, again, it's a testament to us building those relationships, to earning that trust. I also think social media and the technology makes it a lot easier for us to allow those fans to follow players at our level, certainly streaming and the availability of our games. So we're going to keep working those different avenues and continue to allow NHL fans to see their young players play in our league.
ECHL Commissioner Ryan Crelin joining us here on the Three Periods podcast. You talked about the Coralville and Trois-Rivières franchises coming online this year and Savannah next year. On a global sense, and then we'll get down to the macro level for each 3 of these markets, what do those 3 franchises bring to your league that you didn't have before them?
Well, certainly state-of-the-art venues, which is awesome. It's also allowed us to grow up to 27 and then 28. The geography also works nicely. Iowa is a bridge between the Central and the West, so it's nice to get that market in. Savannah certainly fits in our southern footprint. And Trois-Rivières, a team in Quebec, so another team in Canada, French-speaking. So that's new for us. So we're learning along those lines as well. But the ability for that team to affiliate with Montreal and create that trinity there in such a close proximity in the province is awesome.
And where are we've talked about Trois-Rivières and Coralville coming online this year, but where is the progression of the Savannah building coming, and how soon do they expect that to be ready to go?
Yeah, so I was there I think back in February. Had to wear a hard hat walking around. I haven't seen a visual update recently, but they'll certainly be ready come next October, and I think their plan is to open next late spring or early summer, probably host a couple of concert events, and then be ready for hockey.
As you work closer and closer to that magic number 32, where you could potentially have the same amount of teams as the other 2 leagues, obviously this is maybe a harder one to say. What markets or areas of the country are you hoping to cover in future expansions?
Yeah, it's never certain where you're going to go. I do think there's still a couple opportunities in the north, a couple opportunities in the south, and notably a couple opportunities out west as well. I think for the diversification of our league, some more in the West would be great. Unfortunately, as you guys know, the dots get a lot further apart out West, and there's less opportunity. But we look at the whole gamut, and we'll be focusing our attention out there.
I want to pivot from expansion to the CBA, and we had a question from one of our reporters. He says that you guys are getting ready to enter the 4th year of your 5-year CBA. It expires after the 22-23 season. Have you and the PHPA given any thought to an extension of that CBA, given the issues with COVID last year and the potential for more issues this year? And if not, what thoughts do you have as to what the next CBA might look like? I know you don't want to negotiate in the open, but certainly there have to be some ideas that you're kicking around.
No, yeah, we're having those ongoing discussions. Certainly nothing done yet, but certainly with I don't want to call it a lost season because we did have a season, but with a COVID season, the ability to continue the relationship, I got to tell you, I mean, we worked hand in hand with the PHPA to move quickly and pull off the season that we did, and those relations and conversations continue. Again, our focus is on 21-22 and making sure we're ready to play hockey in 49 days, as you guys aptly reminded while I was waiting to join here.
4 times.
But you've got to have your priorities, but we're having those discussions, looking at extending the relationship, but also making sure that we're ready for this season.
How vital is that PHPA relationship been, especially now over the last 20 to 22 months, going back to March of 2020?
Yeah, I mean, it's been key, quite honestly. I mean, we've had to move quickly, had to make sure we all saw the bigger picture and the goal of putting on a hockey season. And with that mentality, we were able to work through it and pull it off. And we need to continue to embrace that mentality. As I said, we're not out of the woods. But it's having that good relationship, making sure everyone's keeping the eye on the goal that allows you to come to an agreement and play hockey.
I think one of the highs of the hockey season was when Fort Wayne finally lifted the cup and we said, we did it. We got a whole ECHL season in. What was the next week like after that championship, knowing that you've now got to figure out how to make one of the shortest, most compact off seasons in ECHL history happen and add half your teams back into the loop?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, we took a moment to celebrate, again, a huge accomplishment, but full well knowing that it would be world's shortest off season and had to get right back at it. And, we never really took a break, and quite honestly, adding the inactive teams back into the fold didn't start the week after or even the month of June. I mean, we got our schedule out, as you guys know, back in May. Home openers, I think, were launched back in March. So making sure that we kept those teams involved, having them look forward to the 21-22 season. So that's been an ongoing process. Again, we wanted to celebrate July 2nd. That was the final game of the Kelly Cup playoffs. But again, knew it was a short off season. So picked up the focus. Again, didn't just start the focus on July 3rd, but picked up the focus and turned our attention fully to 21-22.
One of those teams that sat out last season is the Newfoundland Growlers, and they've been the kind of the focus, if you will, of the off-season drama, in quotations, across the ECHL. And I know that kind of going back to your predecessor, Brian McKenna, that the league generally likes to let the teams handle these lease situations on their own. But now that it has a conclusion and the Newfoundland Growlers will play this season, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, listen, I've been in touch with Dean and Glenn up there going back to the beginning of the year or even prior to the beginning of this year, and knew what the situation was. They worked through a number of things, continued to work through another things, but kept me abreast all the way. Certainly provided them whatever the league could provide. But to your point, they had to handle their negotiations. Ultimately, it worked out. And quite honestly, I may not know all the inner details, but it's done. We're ready to roll, and that's the best conclusion we could get.
That's a pretty rabid fan base. You wouldn't have went there if it wasn't. How important is it to have that fan base back next year, especially with Trois Rivières coming online in just a few weeks?
Well, yeah, I mean, a rabid fan base, amazing market. Certainly a great story for them to enter the league and win as an expansion team. Their affiliation with Toronto, so lots of good things. Part of Trois Rivières as well. There's a natural bridge there from Montreal to Newfoundland via flight. So to keep our Canadian presence very, very important. And I think the other big piece too, as you guys well know, is that's the first property of Dean McDonald and Deacon Investments. Dean's certainly made a large investment in our league with Trois Rivières and Aya as well. But his home is St. John's in Newfoundland, so the ability to keep that going is very important.
One of the things we spent a lot of time on in our opening period tonight was the coaching carousel here in the last couple of weeks. We talked with you just briefly about Matt Thomas. Jason Payne comes in and takes over there and becomes the only black coach in minor league hockey. How does that play into your Inclusive Spirit Award and what the ECHL can do to be a more inclusive league?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps tell our story and tell Jason's story, and we're very proud that he's in our league and the ability to own that title as the only head coach or at least North American professional hockey that I know of. Jason's been around the ECHL for a long time. And, he's earned his stripes too. I mean, he's earned that job. He's put in the time. He's going to do great as a head coach. Just so happens that he's the first black head coach. But again, I reward him on his merits.
Yeah, he's got a great story. And hopefully Matt and I will have a chance to have him on the podcast here very soon, or if not in the season, to have him on and tell his story of how he got there and what draws him, what drew him into playing hockey and things like that. So I do want to kind of end this with, just kind of a personal question. You guys are doing okay after the weather and everything last night moved through?
Yeah, appreciate you asking. We're very fortunate, very, very minimal things in my particular area, but if you go 20 minutes up the road here, not so much. So thinking about those people. And again, we're very fortunate. I don't think everyone knew the hurricane was coming, certainly through the Gulf and through the country there. I don't think anyone anticipated the damage it would do in this part of the country. But hopefully we can work through the weekend here and get the waters to recede.
Yeah, you guys need it. It has been a wet summer up there, and hopefully not a harbinger of a bad winter. So that way you can get back to venues across the league this year. You're going to be doing any traveling outside of maybe a trip to Jacksonville?
Yeah, I certainly look forward to getting back into the swing. Was able to do it towards the tail end of last year. As you guys know, we were in Vegas a couple weeks ago. We actually have a couple more meetings next week in Miami, and before we know it, the season will be here. So, my travel may not be as robust as it is in a normal year, but we're back at it traveling on the whole.
Have you trimmed the beard? Because when you did the stair deal, it was really long.
Trimmed, sure, but it is not gone.
I didn't expect it to be. Will and I both had full beards at that time, and I was like, man, that guy's my hero. So so the wife let the COVID beard go, right?
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't mind too much, and It'll come off one of these days, but like I said, we're not out of the woods yet. So it's a stark reminder that we're still working through this thing.
Yes, Ryan Crelin has a COVID beard, and maybe by the end of this, it will not be to the floor. So it's always good to talk to you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you so much for doing this. And good Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise even more, Matt and I will see you in Jacksonville in January, if not before.
Okay. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
No problem. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. So there you go. That is the commissioner of the ECHL, Ryan Crelin.
Once again, our huge thanks to him that he was able to take the time aside for us to not only enlighten us, but also enlighten you guys, the fans, to really how much goes on behind the scenes that even we don't know about, and we live and breathe this league. So this is a tremendous group that the ECHL has. They proved it last year by putting on a full season, awarding a champion, having full playoffs, almost 5-game series at least, and they have just done amazing things. Hats off to every single one of them.
Yeah, and we can rank or we can talk about the ability for the league to field an entire season, a 72-game season. I mean, I'll raise my hand. I didn't think that we were going to have a full 72-game season, have everybody cross that finish line, and then have a full playoff. But I think that is an incredible accomplishment in and of itself. But then, oh, by the way, to expand by 3 teams,
it's huge.
Man, if that's not just a mic drop moment for this league. The American Hockey League didn't expand, the SPHL didn't expand. Well, the SPHL expanded by 1. I'm sorry, the SPHL expanded by 1. The ECHL expanded by 3 teams, man.
And look at those 3 markets. Trois-Rivières is going to bring a whole new fan base into the ECHL. That might be the one I'm most excited for.
Yeah,
it gives another Canadian team. It won't be the last. I'll say that now. It will not be the last one up there. No. The Iowa one is very unique. You and I spent a lot of time talking about that last month. If you want to get all of our comments, go back and watch that one. So much hockey in that area that you really didn't even realize is there. Coralville's got a lot of potential little hurdles to get over to make sure they've got people at games, but those people love hockey up there. So a unique place there. And Savannah, Georgia is going to be a really cool market to see. They're on the sports map because of the Savannah Bananas, who, if you have not taken the time to go figure out who they are, might be the most entertaining sports teams in the world.
Right.
They're so much fun to watch. If you can go to a game, it's on my bucket list. Make sure you go ahead and get registered now, because I think their wait list is 1 or 2 years long. So I'd go ahead and get your name on the list now if that's a idea for you. I think all 3 of those markets are going to bring really unique aspects to the ECHL.
I do too. It's Savannah's not had. I don't believe Savannah's had professional hockey. If they have, it's been a very long time. And they're going to fit right in with that footprint of, you go Greenville, then South Carolina, Norfolk, even for that matter, Norfolk, then Greenville, South Carolina, Jacksonville. Man, that is a slot. There's no slouch here in this league, but that team's just going to fit right in there, and they're going to be natural rivalries. Trois-Rivières and Newfoundland will be its own natural rival. Montreal and Toronto, that kind of just breeds it right there. And then Coralville being right there on the hockey highway, Interstate 80, there between, the SPHL Quad Cities on the east end, and then you go to Des Moines on the west end in the American Hockey League. So, 3 great markets. They're all going to come on board here in the next 2 of them coming on board here in 49 days. Need we remind you for a 5th time. And then we'll see Savannah next year, and then maybe more TBD. But It sounds like that the league is heading in the right direction, and the one thing that I think we can take from that conversation with the commissioner is, that COVID kind of changed the way of how the league did business, and it made them a lot more nimble, to be able to adjust to things on the fly. And having a partner like the PHPA sitting side saddle with them is a huge, huge feather in their cap.
I asked Commissioner Kreilin about it, but I kind of want to hear your thoughts on it now. Where would you like to see some of those last, I guess we need 5 more teams to get to the 32 limit. Where would you like to see some of those teams land?
Well, naturally, because, I grew up I got into the sport of hockey because of the Wichita, Oklahoma City rivalry. I would love to have a team in Oklahoma City. And that's going to have to be one that you start completely from scratch and you do away with the Blazers name and all of that. So I would love to see a team in Oklahoma City. Think about this. If you did that, you'd have Independence, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Allen all within a 6-hour drive. And I mean,
it'd be awesome.
Oklahoma City knows slobber knocker hockey. So, I mean, that's kind of, that would, if I were branding it, that would probably be the brand.
We might have a new hockey highway.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be another hockey pod, if you will. Interstate 35 could be the hockey highway there. I would like to see them get a little bit further west, maybe Colorado Springs or somewhere else out there in the west. There, he's right. There are very few areas once you get to the Rockies and west to put teams, but there are definitely options. We'll just have to see how it shakes out. But for me, the one spot where I would love to see hockey return to sooner rather than later is Oklahoma City.
That would be not only an exciting one for, I think, the Oklahoma City fans who liked hockey and don't have that opportunity anymore. But I think it brings in even a whole new layer of fans. Obviously, Oklahoma City is a huge place. They have had success with both the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Oklahoma City Blue. Even their G League team has really good attendance. So they're a place that seems to really absorb teams that go there. And it'll be kind of unique to see what could potentially come of something if they were able to land a team.
And the Oklahoma City Dodgers, not to mention.
Oh, yeah.
In Bricktown, too.
Yeah.
The Oklahoma City Dodgers have really good attendance as well, and a very nice ballpark there in downtown Oklahoma City. So it's good to see Oklahoma City thriving. I would love to see minor league hockey make it back in there. I just don't know, given the proximity to that area and how the NBA has really shut down that area to teams who were not already there. The Dodgers were there before the NBA moved in there. It would be very hard for an Oklahoma City team to get back into that Bricktown area. They would have to be somewhere outside of Oklahoma City, like an El Reno, Norman, Guthrie. I'm on the east side of Oklahoma City. I'm not really familiar with areas east of Oklahoma City, but you'd have to have some more well-developed areas come along, or have to have a well-developed suburb maybe, and that'd be a really good place to put a team. But wherever you put a team in Oklahoma City, in that metro area, those fans will flock. That is a tremendously loyal fan base, almost as loyal as any ECHL fan base, and they will come regardless of where you put them.
The place I would like to see a team potentially get landed, of course, we have no idea what's going to happen in the next 2 years with the Arizona Coyotes, but I'd like to see an ECHL team maybe down in Phoenix, or if Arizona leaves, will the Tucson team leave too? There's a lot of question marks there, but I think an ECHL team could thrive down there in Arizona.
Here's one for you: San Antonio.
Oh,
the Rampage left.
That's right.
Perfect opportunity to go back and rebrand as the Iguanas.
Especially, I mean, like I said, we have no idea what's going to happen.
Right.
There are speculations that an Arizona team could move to Houston.
Yep.
And that's a really great place to set up an instant affiliation there. So
Yes.
there's a lot left to go into that.
Man,
But
think about that. I mean, it's completely open-ended, and we have this discussion, I have it with a couple of friends of mine, including yourself, every once in a while, of where would you put teams and what would that look like and all of that. The two for me continue to be Oklahoma City and San Antonio. It's always fun to talk about that stuff. Just pull out a map and be like, yep, that would be a good place. But and most fans can do that, but they, I don't think most fans realize that there has to be an affiliation, that there has to be ownership, there has to be a good fit. It has to work into the league's footprint, all of that stuff, for it to happen. Because if everybody wanted to put pins on the map and say, hey, this would be an ECHL team, the ECHL would have like 400 teams. Yeah. So, it's all about a fit and things like that, to make sure that everything moves smoothly with that. And it's good that the league has partners and ownership like Dean McDonald and the Stephen brothers in Wichita and Lamar Hunt up in Kansas City and Spire Hockey, who own the Rapid City Rush and Greenville Swamp Rabbits, and Andy Kaufman there in Jacksonville. All of these owners so innovative and present the game in so many different ways. The Greenville Swamp Rabbits are going to be on the number 77 NASCAR car this weekend when they go to Darlington. Very rarely do you see that, but the ECHL is starting to get there with its ownership groups. And we can say what we want about other hockey leagues and things like that. I think the brightest future still is in the ECHL.
If you're an ECHL fan now, get ready to start passing out bandwagon t-shirts, because I honestly think coming out of the COVID year, 3 expansion teams, we're going to see a lot of people become ECHL fans in the next couple of years.
Yes.
I mentioned it with Commissioner Kreilin. Fans of NHL teams are really starting to recognize, hey, I've got a couple prospects down at this ECHL team. I want to follow them and see what's up down there. Mm-hmm. That's how I kind of explored the ECHL, with Reading being with Lehigh Valley and Philadelphia. I knew we had a couple players down there, and that's kind of how I really started exploring the ECHL. And it's really easy for that to be a segue for a lot of people. And I think the more we see hockey mimic the style of affiliated baseball, because I think that's really what they're going for. They want a system kind of like baseball does, because they do it really well. Mm-hmm. And I think they are just moving closer and closer every single year. It's really unique to see this league taking form the way it is. Yeah, it is. And, not to toot our own horn, but, the more coverage we can give the ECHL and its fans of ECHL games, the more that the casual NHL and AHL fan will come to experience come to see what is going on down at the AA level of minor league hockey. This is still at its core, the ECHL is still a very small operation, and it has 30 different businesses who have similar or slightly larger operations. So you need media partners and you need outlets like Field Pass Hockey to help be the bullhorn and be the megaphone for what you're doing down here at this league. And so, as long as there's going to be a spot for us, we're going to be there to do it. And we can promise that even in a COVID year, the Kelly Cup's getting raised at the end of the year, and we'll do what we can to be there for you. And
that's right.
Give you the ins and outs of it.
That's right.
This is, as we wrap up this episode, mm-hmm. I just want to hammer home one or two more times, because I think our next couple of episodes will really turn the page into this next season. Mm-hmm. One last tip of the cap to what the ECHL did this last year. Not only did they put on a 72-game schedule, award a Kelly Cup, but they have executed this offseason tremendously. I'll say it one more time. We're 49 days away from hockey, and it feels like a normal offseason. Yeah. They've made this seem like any other time. He even mentioned it. There are tons of coaching changes happening, and we're in the shortest offseason. Right. So this league is working like it's any other year, and it's really getting noticed by people, and they deserve full credits all the way up to Commissioner Kreilin, all the way down to an in-game host at one of the arenas. I mean, it has been incredible.
Absolutely. Well,
when we wrap up the 3 periods, we get to move on to a quick little 3-on-3 overtime. And today we're going to get to know each other like we don't already know each other.
Right.
Here's what we've got. We've each got 3 questions for the other one, and I guess they can answer them as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got to answer it with one question. And I guess if we want to give a little explanation, we can. But you've got, or not one question, with 1-word answers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess we can give a little explanation if need be. This was your gig, so I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Well, this is going to be completely spontaneous, partner. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, we have not seen each other's questions, so we have no idea what's coming.
I haven't written anything down.
Oh.
So this is going to be wholly spontaneous. Okay. 1 word for one of your favorite pastimes that you and I did not get to do when you were in Wichita, disc golf.
Relaxing. I say that because disc golf led me out of one of the toughest years of my life. My first year of college, I really didn't know what I was getting into, and felt a lot of security and happiness out there on the course. Helped me just kind of empty the brain every day, and it really helped me through that year. So relaxing is the word for me.
Awesome.
My first one for you is, how would you describe your hometown of Wichita?
I have to do 1 word. Oh, man. Oh, okay. I got to do 1 word. I guess the word that would come to mind to describe Wichita is laid back.
With a hyphen, of course.
Oh, yeah. Well, laid back can be 1 word.
Oh, I guess so.
Laid back is 1 word. So, yeah, laid back. Well, you can hyphen it too. But laid back. And you know, we're the air capital of the world here in Wichita. And we have Wichita State basketball, which is up in the top 25 in most years. And the Thunder have been pretty good. And we have a AA baseball team here in town. You know, you go to any of these games and you go to any of these venues and talk to people, they just seem very folksy. They are, they know the challenges that we're going through day to day in a country and as a culture, and they're respectful of it, and just don't let it seem to get to them. So that would be the way I would describe Wichita, is laid back.
You mentioned the baseball team. Don't look now. They are in first place in the AA Central. And the way the playoffs work this year, only the top 2 teams play for the title. And right now, the Wind Surge are in position to do that. So don't look now, but it is a good year for Wichita sports.
Are you telling me that I'm going to have to go to a Wind Surge playoff game very soon?
You must. I can't be there to do it, so you have to go in my place at least.
And by the way, sidebar to this, the Wind Surge have a margarita drink. It's called an ICT Rita, and put you on your butt.
Top notch.
Put you on your butt. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
I guess that means I'm ready for your second one.
Let's see. Since I know you're going to school and you're away in southern Indiana right now, with the school year just getting going for you, give me 1 word to describe your senior year of college.
Whew. Full. There's a lot going on, man. Between classes, figuring out an internship, a job, being an apartment owner for the first time in my life. There's a lot going on. So it's nice to be able to sit down and do this in what's been a pretty busy opening couple of weeks. But there's only good things on the horizon. 1 year left, and then we can start to figure out what might be next after that. So yeah. My second one for you ties back into hockey, and it's one that I know you've had a lot of time to think about. But what is the one word you would use to describe what the ECHL has done since March of 2020?
Ooh. Gritty. And I say that because, we talk about this, and, the ECHL as a conglomerate, is kind of the overlord of things, but these are each individual businesses. And so they are having to deal with the situation on the ground in their markets, and they have a different view on things than the ECHL does. And for them to get through what they've gotten through, to impose or implement some protocol last year to keep everybody away from the players and just let the players come and go and do what they want, and still have that and let them do that and get games played and award a Kelly Cup. And then now to kind of turn the page and open it up a little bit more, it sounds like, but we'll see here in the next few weeks. I just think that that's a gritty effort. And, we talk about the expansion of 3 teams coming up here over the next 2 years. I just, for me, to put the league in a better place than where it was at the day before the league shut down, where there was a whole ton of unknowns and everything like that, I think that is just a gritty effort. That's the best 1-0 win that the ECHL has ever had.
Big time.
My final one word for you is describe. Describe your favorite sports team in one word.
Ooh. That's going to sound rough, but I've got to use disappointing.
Uh-oh. Well, that makes sense because you're a K-State Wildcat fan.
I'm not even going to talk about them, but they're just they also. I think when I'm not working or working on studies, the Philadelphia Flyers are the team that I follow and ride or die the most with. Mm-hmm. And these last 2 years have been 2 of the most disappointing seasons since I became a fan, because of the high ceiling for the teams and the low output once they made the playoffs. So disappointing has got to be the word that I described those Broad Street bullies these last couple of years. Re-signed Joel Farabee to a 6-year, $50 million contract today, though. So young Beezer is going to be here for a while.
That's not bad.
My third and final one for you is the one word of what has gotten you through COVID since March of 2020.
Ooh. This is going to be, well, no. Shaylin, my wife. And, COVID has not affected me because the day job that I have, we are critically essential employees of the government. My wife is a pharmacy technician, and so she has been on the front lines of this, like every nurse, every doctor, every firefighter, every police officer, whatever, what have you, every grocery store worker, all of that. She's been on the front lines of this with them for the last 18 to 20 months. And so just seeing her resolve and her character and her willingness to help her coworkers out and help people out and educate them about what's going on has been a real boom to me, and to how I've approached things over the last year. So that would be my one word, is my wife, to get to on how she's gotten me through this. And COVID has changed a lot of things for a lot of people. We've talked about this. You were supposed to go to your college last year, and COVID derailed that. And I was lucky enough to get to work with you in person for one more year.
Made for one of the most exciting years of hockey we've had.
That's right. We sure had a lot of fun. But man, it just changed the game for so many people. And just to have somebody like my wife, who's been on the front lines, and you see it through their eyes and all of this, and know she's not a nurse or anything like that. She's a pharmacy technician, but just to see it through their eyes. And I do have family of mine who are nurses and actually going through this as well. Just to see it through their eyes, it just brings an immense amount of respect for what they do. So that's it.
And those are the people who have made this ride just that little bit easier. Those people who have had to really put themselves in the heat of it and made it look easy sometimes. So and she definitely has. Well, I think we've made it through 60 minutes of hockey
plus
5+ minutes of 3-on-3 overtime. We needed the ECHL 7 minutes. I'll go with that one. But right. I'm sure here in the next couple of weeks we'll reconvene to really get you set for the 2021-22 season, which for one final time is only 49 days away. If you missed at the opening couple times, we're really close. So stick with us in these next couple weeks. We'll get you set for the season. We've got a lot planned here. The teams have got a lot planned. This league's got a lot planned. We have a lot of exciting things in hockey. A brand new Seattle team up in the N, 2 brand new teams here, 1 brand new team in the S. Going to be a fun year of hockey. So we thank you for joining us on episode number 9 of the 3 Periods podcast. And we'll hit double digits in just a couple weeks to get you set for the 2021-22 season. For Matthew Harding, he's that way for me. I'm Matthew Will. Thanks for joining us on another edition of the 3 Periods podcast.
You've been listening to the 3 Periods podcast. Do you have a topic you'd like discussed? Hit us up on Twitter at 3 Periods Pod with the hashtag TPP on FPH. And for the latest news on the ECHL and minor league hockey, visit fieldpasshockey.com.
They're going home.